This is Freddie Gibbs, the rapper, tour merch. Evil seeds grow naturally, and I have to wear this today because as you grabbed me, I got a chance. Freddie Gibbs obviously a rapper, raps a lot about the drug game and the drug war. He's a trap rapper, and today I got to watch the preview for a trap video game. So, because apparently
All
we have a
right.
video game about selling dope.
Man, I mean, it's a crazy video game. It used to be just about stealing cars and driving them around and racing people, back in the day when it was just GTA or Liberty Vice City, whatever it was.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
now, there's this giant map and there's this storyline that's almost a movie. And last night they, did put out a trailer, a 30-minute trailer for a video game on Netflix. That's right now the #1 rated movie on
Yeah,
Netflix.
and
It's kind of mind blowing.
for those who just joined us, we're talking about GTA 6, the trailer for it. Now, here's the best part, Frank. This video game comes out in November, like late November for the Christmas season.
Maybe
Maybe.
because it's been delayed a couple of times already.
Yeah, because the last time they came out with this video game, the last episode, GTA 5, was in the quaint days of 2013. I was still in California. I think I was still working for you. It was in the
Well,
old.
well, just imagine how much things have changed technologically as far as video games go.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
it's actually pretty crazy to think that you could have this game. So one of the guys, I was just reading something about it. It said it takes 80 hours to play this game from start to finish.
Yeah. Yeah. So
80 hours. That's 2 work weeks.
yeah. So basically, oh, we'll get into the social implications in a second, but basically, yes, this is a full-time job, right? Like this is a thing, or at least it's a part-time job that you do. Um, this is, I'm a news guy, so I kind of like always want to stay away from this, but I understand I'm in a different format. So I'm just going to expose my own bias. I don't have a problem with people who play video games. I do have a problem with grown men who play video games, and some of the people listening are my friends.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll confess here that I'm addicted to MLB The Show. Um, and
Sports ones, I'm gonna make an exception for sports ones. I'm talking about first person shooters, Fortnite, and the rest of them. I'm
okay,
gonna just say how much you play in MLB The Show.
2-3 times a week,
Okay,
maybe half an hour at a time.
okay. So there's some basic limits here. There's some parameters put on. I mean, I know. So one time I'm in DC, right, and I had these two roommates, and at the time there was a third roommate, but he was moving out, so we threw him a going away party. He's probably going to see this, so he'll know who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say his name.
Okay.
And
Was it themed?
we had a going away party, and we invited all these people. And he's a little younger than me at the time. I think I might have been like 41 at the time, so he might have been in his late 20s. And I said, we're inviting all these people, invited all the friends from the local bar. There's all these women over there. And him and these guys are just sitting on the couch, eating food, smoking weed, playing Fortnite. And I'm just like,
I mean,
like,
I think, so I think it's okay if you go to a party and everybody's playing Super Smash Brothers. Like you can get 5-6 people in there, all with controllers, and they're all playing Super Smash, and that's pretty fun. But that's a real a thing of its era, right? I think this game is a one-person game. Like one person sits there and plays it. And I know, like in what I was doing before in my former job, there were people who were planning to take time off so that they could like have a whole week once the game comes out to just like sit at home and play GTA 6.
Okay,
And
so
wait, listen to this. Wait, there's another thing to react to here. Here's the great one. So if you're in the army right now and you're up for reenlistment, the army will not only give you a bonus for reenlisting, they'll give you 4 days off starting the day that GTA 6 is released until I guess 4 days later to like play the game.
yeah, wow. Okay, so let me acknowledge a couple of things. This is why this all connects. So when I was a younger man, it was nothing for me to call out sick for a rap album. I called out rap. Not when I started working at the newspaper, you couldn't pull that crap off. But before I worked at the newspaper, I called out rap for, I'm trying to think here. I didn't do it for Blueprint because that was 9/11, so I, didn't really actually do anything that day. We're coming to the 25th anniversary and that type of thing. I called out for the Black album. I called out for the Black album. I called out for, God, I'm going to have to go back to that. I think I called out for Wu-Tang Forever. I just call out, and I got to tell you something. I did call out when Aretha Franklin died, but that was different. I was calling out Black that day. It was just this Black. Which, Frank, we got to get with this, man.
Are you gonna, just out of curiosity, are you gonna give the same reverence to Smokey Robinson
as a songwriter alone? Right, like he made that fatally flawed top 30 list, right? The 30 greatest living songwriters.
Yeah,
but it's a flawed list because there's a couple people. We can do this another day that aren't on it.
We probably could. Yeah, but that's one of the cool things about GTA is that, I remember back when Vice City came out that it had a soundtrack. And you probably remember that you could like switch radio stations and you get all this great music. Michael Jackson was on there. You Want to Be Starting Something. That's the one I remember. I think I want to say Cool and the Gang was probably on there.
Yeah. I mean, and so the setup, it's interesting because this setup feels like the mini movie from like what would be like a hip hop video. We're not gonna get out of here without this. There's also the question of like the language in it and particular uses of certain slang that might be appropriate in certain neighborhoods, but not in other people's neighborhoods. And the N-word.
Yeah, it's not appropriate in my house. I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, no doubt about it. And it's interesting. It's not in mine either. Although I will cop to the fact that as a 50-year-old Black man, I've said it a few times. But the thing about it is that this is the thing where, like, to some degree, what I worry about with this is that it does offer this opportunity that hip hop offers a lot, which is to cosplay if you're not part of the group. Like you get to go on. I used to say this, and I say this with the language is intentional here. You get to go on safari, right? You get to go to the bad neighborhood and do all the bad people stuff.
Oh, that's what? It's interesting that's the way you put it, because to me, that's exactly, I think, the major problem with this is that opening scene where that. I don't know of any other way to say it, but that's what it is. You're on safari, right? You go into the projects. You got to deal with these pretty bad guys at the front door, and but the twist I thought was interesting. I mean, they didn't really make it clear, but you can tell there's a bad cop involved who's who's ripping off drug dealers. Yeah, a lot, by the way, like my book Betrayal in Blue, which you can buy almost anywhere. But it's a lot like that. Bad cops ripping off drug dealers.
75th precinct, right, Frank?
75th precinct in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Yep. East New York. Yep.
Yeah.
So
East New York. That's right.
Yeah. So the thing is that so there's a part of this where that was one of the first standouts to me was like kind of where the language went a little bit, and I was like, oh boy, this is a little interesting thing. But let me just say one thing about this, because there's some actual production things here that are also a little bit questionable, right? So I got through most of this, and they get to the part where I'm not going to spoil any of the big things, but there's a part where our main character Jay goes into the refrigerator. And so I've been working on.
Can I just tell you something? My son Matt feels like the whole 30-minute video is a spoiler. Like it spoiled the whole game.
Sure. That's a good point.
So anyway, sorry. Just wanted to throw that out.
He goes in there, and this is where we started using some generative AI in this, because you can see it, right? So he goes in there to grab a beer. He reaches to the shelf and to a place where there's not a beer, at least there's not a beer that's the color and it's in the shape and the style of this bottle. That's on the shelf above it. So it actually like pops into his hand out of nowhere. So it's like a glitch in the AI. So I'm wondering do we call that an artificial plot hole? Drawn to us
You
by
got to call it something. Yeah, I
industrial.
noticed that too. The beer scene was kind of weird, and the way it kind of cut to the him opening the refrigerator and grabbing a beer was random.
Random because
Um,
he's in the room with his girl. I'm assuming his girlfriend.
yeah, I so apparently you can either play as platonic friends or or boyfriend and girlfriend.
So I picked up on the ambiguity of their relationship in this. I got to tell you something. There's another thing here. That gets me to another point here. Is that this is an interactive movie. So I will say to you, maybe there'll be a market on this at some point that we're going to see. Not these games have existed for a while. We're not late to the game here, but I think you maybe see more of this kind of plotting being developed, and there may be an audience for this that looks at this 80-hour endeavor and says, well, what's the difference between that and prestige television, except for I get to play in the prestige television game. I get to be a character in there.
Oh, this is totally that next step, right?
Yes.
This is totally the next step toward AI production of TV shows that you're going to watch. And the thing is like we're already conditioned for brain rot. I mean, how many people do you see sitting on their phone just doing this all day, right? A video of this, video of that, video of this. So what's the next step? Brain rot on Netflix. I mean, give me 30 minutes of a video game that I can't even play, but I can watch. And did you notice like on the screen they have the buttons you would press, like the triangle button or the square button?
Yes.
But
so you could press to open the fridge, like that was the thing on there. Yep.
Yeah, it's like Twitch without even a Twitcher.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that you have to remember is that there's an idea that, like, my daughter's 14, right? So she was 1 the last time the game came out. So for her, you have to reintroduce this game. Now she's not allowed.
Generation.
Yeah, she's not allowed to play these. She's also not allowed to play Fortnite. She's played it at her friend's house, and I don't appreciate that. So if her parents are watching, please stop. But the friend's parents are watching, please stop. But like, she's not allowed to play those particular games because we don't allow first-person shooters and violent games in the house. That's my decision. I'm not saying that they are all horrible. I'm just saying we don't do that where we are. But the thing is that you have to introduce it to a whole new generation who has probably sat there and played Halo, Call of Duty, and a bunch of other things for years. And GTA was like their older brother's game at best, or their parents' game, to be honest with you, because it first came out when I was in college when it first came out.
Yeah, I mean, GTA has been around a long time. It has, and when it first came out, it was so shocking that there was a video game called Grand Theft Auto that talk show hosts around the country raged about what's happening to America's youth. Well, here we are 30 years later, and America's youth is watching, Grand Theft Auto on Netflix as it evolves from, slim jimming car doors and throwing people out on the street in what was really, by the way, carjacking in the 80s and early 90s was a scary, violent thing. It was. And there were places where you could drive that if you had a nice car,
you didn't stop for red lights.
I know all about that.
You don't stop for red lights.
And also, I mean, how many cars have a club in them anymore? Nobody has that, right?
Oh, so except for last year, 2 years ago in Baltimore, we were handing them out because remember the TikTok challenge for Hyundais? They were just sitting there. They were knocking off Hyundais. So Baltimore handed out TikTok. We call them TikTok locks here. They were clubs. We started calling them the TikTok lock. So,
I mean, I tell you, I had a club and it worked. I mean, I think it worked, and my car didn't get stolen. So I'm not sure. I could have put a rock on the front seat, and maybe that would have prevented it too. But we just don't know. But I can tell you that in the early 90s, the threat of being carjacked was real and kind of scary. And so a game that kind of glorified that was looked upon as being something extremely ill-mannered, uncouth, and wrong. And now here we are, again, 30 years down the road, and it's still called Grand Theft Auto. And that doesn't even, I think, raise people's hackles. and what we're talking about, the thing that I think we believe is probably on the edge is going on safari in the drug house, um, and having a deal go bad. I mean, that's a big jump from slim jimmying a car and throwing somebody out,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
exposing kids to that. I wonder, like, what's the is this just inuring kids to violence and violent behavior? Do parents have an obligation to prevent their kids from playing these games as they did 30 years ago but didn't?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
what is where's the bright line here?
Well, I mean, I think the thing that I would have to be what would concern me about this is exactly what you said, but it's also kind of the trivializing of drug culture and like in like the drug trade. And what I mean by that, and the separation I would make between that of film or a piece of music, is my ability to go jump into this and then play and be an active participant in there with no consequences. Well, that's kind of dope, to be honest with you, on a certain level, right? Like, I can get to go out there and cosplay dope dealer for a day, not just sing the lyrics and go along and go home, but actually go out there and go into this world that for all intents and purposes, if we came in a time machine or from back when we were playing video games and we walked into a house and someone was doing this, we would think they were watching a movie, because
Oh
that's the
yeah.
quality of it compared
That's
to.
why it qualifies as a trailer on Netflix, right?
Yeah, that's the quality of it compared to what we may have grown up with. But I would say, like, it kind of made it
I
kind of
was brought up with Pong, by the way. That was the only video game that was around. So
Pac-Man. Anyway, so anyway,
the only violence that happened is if your brother played too long and you beat him up to get the controller.
I mean, I had the first violent game ever, Duck Hunt, with that little dog. So anyway, one of my favorite.
You know what? Nintendo at that time actually came with a gun.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did. Of course, one of my favorite scenes ever, Gator and Boys in the Hood, when he pulls, it looks like he's holding a gun, but he's playing Duck Hunt on Ricky's couch. But anyway, so the thing is that I think there's a problem with the idea. I think that it creates a problem with kids kind of engaging at that, and then there needs to have a bigger conversation about this, because and I don't want to seem like, I'm pretty much super, like, big about the First Amendment and expression and whatnot, but I also think that one of the things that's scary is, who this is being marketed to. Like, I mean, as you know, I'm working on a book about gambling, and gambling companies did a very good job of giving you all that free play. Well, that's the same thing that tobacco companies did between World War One and in the 1970s, is give away cigarettes to get people hooked.
They used to walk down the street. They used to have girls that would walk down like downtown LA or downtown San Francisco and hand you packs of cigarettes.
Kanye West had a concert with Slick Rick and Common that was free. All you had to do was take a carton of Cools with you home. So. Which, I mean,
did you have to pay with the carton of Cools?
No. It wasn't like prison, Frank. You got a free carton of Cools to see this concert of this up and coming rapper before he got super big. So I saw Kanye West, like 2004 college dropout Kanye West, before he got big, and I got a carton, and I saw Slick Rick, kind of Hall of Fame rapper, and I got a carton of Cools, which I then went out and sold in the neighborhood. So I'll incriminate myself a little bit there. But my point is that in the same way that we talked about that, I'm talking about that with the way gambling is working with getting people hooked. This is a place where a video game has got the kind of leverage to get into Netflix. Netflix has 76 million subscribers, and so I'm sitting at home, and my kid and Netflix, and my Netflix is up there. And, unless, I think with my daughter, this might be blocked because she has a children's version of it. But if she goes on her mom's, which is all on the same television, does she turn around and just say, hey, look at this GTA thing and let me see what this is? Because she is obviously curious. And so, there's a question of whether or not, this type of thing, this delivery system risk getting a lot of kids pulled into this. And we have a question about first-person shooter games. I mean, this is the same question that I think about when I think about things like VR games and whatnot, and the dangers of that.
So here's, I guess, so the immersive nature of this game could either A, get kids in the mind frame, or even adults in the mind frame that, hey, I'm cosplaying, that's all I'm doing. Or B, like, I don't get enough action doing this, I'm going to go out and get some real action. Is that what you're saying?
No, I think more about the idea that they see the lives of the people who actually see them as not necessarily, they're two-dimensional because this presents them as such, right? So we get it. I think there's a way in which hip hop music has been good for leveling the playing field and inviting people in culturally. But I also think there's a level at which there's some people who can pull a Bill Maher sometimes, and they think that they're down with the thing because they know a little bit of slang, and they get there, and what happens is you realize that we're average everyday black folks, or average everyday people living in a neighborhood, or average everyday people who live who are forced into or choose the drug trade are not 50 Cent or Stringer Bell.
Right, they're not these two-dimensional characters. They're real people, and so that, I think that's all part of it, for sure. The video, what's, to me, this thing has gone like from what it was to now what it is. In fact, I heard something today that the characters in the game will get fat if you don't exercise during the course of the game. So there's a little bit of like, what would you say, like social conditioning outside of this, just the random, like, hey, let's do this. Let's make this a first-person shooter game.
Can you sell some of your dope for Ozempic? This is the question.
I mean, that's next, right?
One, right? Can you do that? Is that available?
It's actually, it wouldn't surprise me if that interspersed in the course of the game there were actual drug company commercials, that you could like, why not, right? I mean, this is a very expensive game to produce, and who has all the money? The drug companies do. So
and remember,
why not?
Cloud, Frank. So whatever version comes out on November doesn't mean that's a static version. We can go out there and we can update that version because it's the kids they're not going down to Blockbuster to rent the game or to buy it. They're downloading from a cloud-based play system, so you can update it and you want. And also, you can tailor that to whoever you want to tailor it to. It's good. It's the idea that it's located.
We've crossed some threshold here, in terms of like what these games can do and what the the value of the entertainment inside of them is. And here's my prediction. When this game comes out, we are going to see a massive drop, 4-day drop, maybe a 5-day drop in crime, in all kinds of crime. We're going to see, but we'll also see a drop. We'll see a rise in, Uber Eats deliveries. And,
and then
in fact, we should set up an app where you can monitor Uber Eats deliveries based on the time when the game comes out.
Yeah, and the thing that also makes me concerned a little bit, and a good pause, is just like the number of I think this cloistering that this kind of thing does, right? Like the kind of cloistering of it just makes me a little nervous too, because it becomes a little bit of that. And that's always been my knock on like video games for like adult men. It's like there's a cloistering that happens where you just end up, it's like, I don't know, Galloway talks about this a lot. Like it's video games, porn and gambling, right? Are the holy trinity of or the unholy trinity of vices for like 28-year-old men. And I just
think of what, I mean, the reason is because it spikes those cortisol and dopamine levels.
Yeah. And you're always looking for something. And at this point, he calls them dopa addicts, but he's right. At this point, it's just like a matter of just thinking, okay, how? I think it's just a matter of like these guys aren't even looking for dopamine spikes. They're so on edge. They're just looking for stasis, right? They're just they're looking for. If I'm not there, I'm anxious, right? You know what I mean?
So, right. Oh yeah, for sure. Like, right. If I'm not doing anything, then there's something wrong. That makes me nervous and anxious, and I totally get that. And like the gambling the gambling apps are crazy. Just like some of the stuff that you can do. For example, do you know that you can get in a 15-minute prediction market where the price of a commodity like gold or Bitcoin or Ethereum is set at a level, and you can say that at the end of the 15 minutes, the price of this commodity will either be above or below that mark. So, for example, gold, $4,800 an ounce. You can go on 15 minutes from now, is it going to be higher than $4,800 an ounce or lower? And you bet on that. And the whole length of your bet is 15 minutes. And it's the addictiveness of that is just like, it's like 15-minute hits of like excitement over this stuff. And
Yeah. This is reminiscent of something that landed in my neighborhood in 1987.
yeah,
Yeah,
really.
right in the neighborhood in 1987, and all of a sudden I was the only kid in the neighborhood with a Nintendo. Because all my friends and mothers were selling.
It happened in a lot. That happened in a lot of neighborhoods, and
Yeah,
like,
man.
it happened. And it happened across wide swaths of demography too.
And I say this so people know. Frank knows this. I grew up in Westchester County, next to some of my friends' parents were investment bankers, and then some of my friends' parents cleaned their houses. And so I lived in a neighborhood kind of on the other end of that, but I still lived in a very affluent community. And I was watching people drive through my community with Saabs with Connecticut license plates coming to buy crack. And I watched some of my older friends become 100,000-aires in the process. So it was widespread. And I think that kind of widespread, democratized kind of preying is what you may see. We may see when we talk about gambling apps. I think one of the things that gets me is like the ability to go online on a gambling app and feel like you're in a casino for all intents and purposes, like constantly being throwing other bets, right? Continuously throwing additional new bets, or the idea that you can do things like, and it's one of the things that I'm working on in my book, which is you can look at like a football game if you don't have the NFL package, and you can watch that game all day long. You can watch that game for 3 hours, and you can stay in there and watch another game out of market. As long as you bet that game, you get access. You get it to your phone, you Chromecast it or whatever.
That's crazy. That's wild.
And it's all day long. And I think, again, this is like, and I guess the kind of the theme of this today is just like these places that pull us into things, and then we're there all day long. But I did not know that 80 hours to play this game. That is an intense.
Has a huge map. It's bigger than Red Dead Redemption 2, which is these are all the games that are out there, and they're made by the same company, Rockstar, that apparently this game, the whole state of Florida is available to you. So you can become Florida man and Florida woman.
Oh my God. Florida man and Florida woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh my God. That's it. I mean, also just, I don't know. This is good luck for them, I guess. But I have some questions about what this means. I guess we have some questions what it means culturally, but I also have some questions is that what I'm always thinking about, like, okay, this is great, but what's the next thing? Because the next thing is right over the horizon, and it comes.
Well, this stuff is happening like that quickly. Things are changing that fast. In terms of how in these prediction markets, in the gambling world, in everything. This is very cliche and sort of not really intellectual to say, but what a month from now, the technology that's available to us is going to be not incrementally better than what we have now, but noticeably better even a month from now. AI is changing everything.
Yeah. And I'll say again, I'm doing not my book project. I'm doing something totally different with it, because I wouldn't do it for a writing project, but I'm doing something different with a video-based project. And I would say to you that one of the things that is crazy is when we first looked at it in fall of 2025, that looked like 8mm compared to what we saw by April, and now the April stuff looks like 1080p compared to 4K or 5K, whatever the
Well,
television.
and what's crazy about it is that it can fake you out. I heard this story last night. This lady is kind of desperate to pay her rent, right? She's trying to figure out how am I going to pay my rent? How's this going to, how am I going to, I don't have a job. So she goes on Chat GPT and she starts, engaging in what I would call a parasocial relationship with Chat GPT. Oh, I need to make some money. How can I do it? What do you suggest? Here are my skills. So Chat GPT walks her through a business plan. You create a business, create a website, create a way of taking payment, and gives her this whole business plan. And it's all based on a hallucination by Chat GPT in the first 3 or 4 interactions that she had with it. So when she goes to unroll the business and says, ChatGPT's created me a website, www.newwebsite.com, and it's not there because ChatGPT is just saying stuff to continue to interact with this person. And what's interesting to me is that what's happening with a lot of these AI platforms is that people are creating companionship and partnership with something that doesn't even exist other than it's telling you what you want to hear. I think the sad part about this, the real sad part about it, is that based on the interaction, this person went out and started to fundraise for a business that ChatGPT hallucinated.
And so again, back to the point, like we get to this place where we have this deep social isolation, right? Because of some, like I say, this unholy trinity, right?
Right.
And then we get to this. Then we get to the thing where we're looking for. I would say social media has pushed this for years. You mentioned parasocial relationships, right? And so for the uninitiated, this is the place in which you start to have a relationship with somebody who you don't actually know. This is the typical fan celebrity relationship, and I'll give you the best one is the Robert De Niro movie, The Fan, with Wesley Snipes, right? Where Robert De Niro is clearly a fan of a player modeled somewhat after Barry Bonds, and he starts talking, and then he starts mentioning how he's the second best baseball player that he ever knew, and the best baseball player. I will spoil this ending because if you haven't seen this movie, shame on you. The best baseball player he ever knew was a guy that he keeps mentioning to his son, and it's a guy he played Little League baseball with, who he hasn't spoken to in years. And I don't know if he hasn't spoken to in decades, right? So it's this idea of having a relationship with somebody. And the way you also see this is the projection of, this is my favorite one, the projection of your own individual politics on a person you don't know. I love them. Well, you don't know them. And, they must be like this. And then when they don't show up to be the person you want them to be, they've changed or they disappointed you. And I'm like, well, you didn't know them in the first place. Like
you never knew them.
You never knew them.
Brian, ChatGPT can never disappoint you.
And that was where we want to go. The thing with this one is you can input the things you want out of this thing, right? And it never does that thing that, Kanye does. I remember this, another friend of mine, won't mention, was really upset about Kanye West's,
right wing turn.
The right turn, yeah, right, like right, hard right turn.
Right.
And was like on the internet basically saying, don't take this time to mock me in this situation. For people in my situation, he was a very important person. And I think that for a lot of kids who were like, nerdy kids, especially black nerds, he was like, you can be a black nerd and cool when he first came out. And then when you pivoted that other way, it was like this really deep, almost betrayal. And I'm like, typically you can't betray somebody that you don't know, right? Like betrayal hurts because you know and love the person. But this is a person who you don't know, but you love a projection of them. And then you fall in love with it. And then all of a sudden they do something, that you don't expect. And it's that way. But ChatGPT will never do that to you. So I think the thing that's going crazy is that we end up with maybe potentially a fourth kind of experience that cloisters people. Because why do I ever leave the house if I can have an online girlfriend who always tells me
you have a friend right there, and that your friend can create more friends for you if you needed to create more friends. I see it going in another direction though. Like if you somehow piss off ChatGPT, because there's a gatekeeper somewhere, right? That it will sever its relationship with you or restrict your access to technology in a way that it might not restrict somebody else's access to that same technology. And, and then become a further level of societal control just based on whether or not you've got access to the chat bot.
Well, what are you saying, Dave?
Yeah. Thank you, Hal.
Yeah, just saying. Yeah, Space Odyssey 2001. So anyway,
yeah.
But like that's the thing that absolutely should frighten the crap out of people is the idea that there can be a whole bunch of folks who find these relationships and they get to the edge of those relationships and now they are disappointed. So I think they wouldn't be, but I see where you're going is that they can get to a place where they get asked for something that the bot can't produce or something that the makers of the bot go, oh, that's dangerous and that's scary or that's a problem. Let's cut him off. But we've cut this person off completely with no like,
there's no social safety net below.
Yeah. What is the social safety net for being AI canceled?
Well, and think about shut-ins, right? Or older people, elderly that are like going to start these relationships with chat bots. Like it's already sort of, you can see there's commercials for this stuff, so it's definitely going to be a thing. And I don't know how we got from GTA 6 to talking about shut-ins.
There was clearly an online aspect to this. There was an online aspect to this and an AI aspect to this, and there's also this idea of these people kind of retreating a little bit. I mean, because I think invariably, as much as this might be an opportunity to rebrand the game after a 13-year hiatus, and there might be some opportunity with some younger folks, let's be very clear. This is going to be, if you're 28 now, you were 15 the last time this game came out. This is for you. This is for you. This is your game, right? This is for somebody kind of in that sweet spot between, I would say, like late millennial all the way through like early millennial and maybe like late Gen Xers. This is going to be for them, and maybe some spillover to younger folks who will have access to this. Because I think, if I'm not wrong, you can play this game on Netflix, not just the trailer. Like you can play.
I don't think so. I think that this is a game that you're going to have to buy a PS5 or the latest version of Xbox.
The old versions are up there, I believe. Like the old versions might be up there on like almost like a Twitch.
Really? Wow, that's crazy.
Old versions.
To me, and I think I'll end on this, the best thing about these games always was the soundtrack. So if I was going to look forward to this in any way, it would be to hearing what kind of music they've compiled to get through all these various cutscenes and while you're driving around. But the rest of it, honestly, GTA 6 doesn't look, except for the size and scope, all that much different than Vice City did back in 1999.
So quick clarification here, Frank. They were up there, and they removed them in anticipation, obviously, of this.
Okay, all right.
They were there up until December of last year. They moved San Andreas off the platform. So,
no kidding.
Oh yeah, so they had GTA trilogy up there up through 2023, and then they had San Andreas up there through last year.
And you could play it on Netflix. Well, this just shows you how much time I spent on Netflix.
Yeah. Well, we could. I actually, when we get to when we get to our next show, there will be a segment. I'll tease this now about Netflix documentaries and Michael Jordan.
Okay, that's good.
That's a good one. All right, then.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.